Alrighty, YouTube, it's your boy Zxous. We're back with another Goddess of Victory Nikke video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to build / what to prioritize for 2B. I did one for A2 yesterday, and a lot of you guys loved it and wanted me to do one for 2B since I hadn't done one for 2B. So, yeah, what we usually do in this is we go over the skills, talk about what's the best skills to prioritize working on. Then we talk about the cube. Talk about best cube, then we talk about best overload effects, and then we talk about best partners and wrap up the video like that. So if you guys are new, make sure you guys subscribe. We're trying our best to hit 7,000 subscribers by the end of the month. Right now we're 6 for 6 and just gaining 1,000 every month, so I would like to keep that trend at least for until we hit 10,000 realistically. But yeah, if you guys get subscribed to your boy, go ahead and subscribe. But yeah, let's start. So obviously 2B, fantastic characters. I'm gonna have a video out on like just my thoughts on the entire NIER collab right later on today. But this character is a fantastic character. So her first skill essentially just increases her max HP every time you use her specific burst skill, right? Not when you enter a full burst, not when you use another burst 3 burst skill. When you use 2B's burst skills, she gets an effect permanently as well. So the first time you use it, you get an HP buff, and then the second time you use it, you get an additional like buff to the current HP buff you already had. So for me right now it's 8%. If I use it the second time, I get an additional 17% plus the 8% I already had before. And then again, it keeps going like that until you get to 3 times essentially. Second skill, after firing 300 normal attack, she deals nice damage of final attack to all enemies, pretty nice. And then obviously when the battle starts, she just gives herself an attack buff of her final max HP, which is ridiculous, right? 5.6% at level 8 of final max HP is ridiculous. That's big, that's huge. Then the burst skill just does insane numbers AoE, right, of final as distributed damage. So what that means is it's going to be split evenly rather than like just dealt regularly, right? So rather than everybody taking 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, if the total number was 1 million, every enemy would just take 100k, or like every enemy would just take a portion of it that equaled up to 1 million essentially, realistically. And then obviously one enemy with the highest max HP will get dealt an additional like couple hundred percentages of final attack, which is pretty good. Now in terms of what you want to go for in terms of prioritizing the skills, I'm going to do it in like 2 ways, right? So if you want focus on nothing but damage, probably from burst skill all the way up, right? If you do not have characters that can increase your max HP, your skill 1 should be your main priority, because this character just benefits from having that max HP. So let me just reword it from that beginning. For scratch what I just said about from the way all the way to top and damage. Let me just word it like that. If you don't have anybody who can increase your max HP efficiently, then skill 1 is your main priority. Burst skill is probably your second priority, because the more you use this, the more effects you get on the first skill. So your first skill and your burst skill are going to be active consistently. And then your second skill is also very important. This is a character where all the skills need to be leveled up, right? There's really no order, because you just want to probably go like a level 1, level 1, level 1, level 2, level 2, level 2, level 3, level 3, level 3. Go like that, right? Because no matter, like, there's no skills here that you specifically want to target first, because everything else needs to be targeted just as much, right? Probably, I guess, only the first skill needs to be targeted the most, because that gives you more buffs, right? More HP for the attack buff that you get in the second skill, which will be beneficial for the burst skill. So yeah, I guess if you don't want to do it 1 1 1 1 2 or 2 2 2 2 3 3 3 whatever, then do skill 1, then burst skill, then skill 2. That's probably the best way to go about it, in my opinion. But yeah, this is a character you want all these skills to be leveled up as high as possible. Remember, 2B is a character that requires investment, so get these to as high as possible. Obviously preferred level 10 skills, but level 7, level 8, all level 7, all level 8 is like where you can stop around there, right? So yeah. Now, her cube. Her best in slot cube, in my opinion, is obviously the Bashing Cube, and also the Resilience Cube. So really those 2 cubes, right? Not Wingman, only because I feel like it doesn't matter with Wingman, right? If this was a machine gun, then sure. But because she's an AR, I feel like Wingman and max ammo capacity with this character, it just doesn't matter. Because even if I do have all these bullets, it's like, it's just a waste. Her attack speed is way too slow regardless. Me getting max ammo capacity is not going to make this faster, right? Realistically, me getting ammo capacity is not going to make this faster. And it's like, you can benefit so much from having reload speed or Bayesian cube, because those are two cubes that you're probably going to have upgraded more, right? So just use one of those 2 cubes. It doesn't really matter, right? But I think those are the 2 most upgraded cubes in Nikke, right? And they actually are good for her. So I gave her the Bayesian cube because everybody else on my team has the resilience cube. I can only give it to 4 people right now. But yeah, whichever one is higher level, give it to her. Either the Bayesian cube or the resilience cube. It really doesn't matter. You're getting the same results, to be honest. And then for overload gear, a lot of people are probably going to be confused on this one too, right? So what I think her best thing to do, right, the best way to go about her is, remember, she's a character who skills off of HP. So the attack buff for her is not really going to be all that necessary. In my opinion, this character shines with crit, right? Especially when we talk about her best partner. So I would highly recommend for your overload gear, what you should be giving her is crit rate, right? Crit rate or crit damage. Probably crit damage, because again, remember, all Nikkes have a base percentage of 50% crit rate, right? And talking about her best partners coming up soon, you're not going to need that additional crit rate, right? It depends on if you're going to use her with those characters, but if not, then you can give her the crit rate. But crit damage for sure, right? Crit damage for sure. Another one you want to actually give her is elemental damage dealt, right? Because this is a character who's going to be very, very good against bosses, right? I feel like you're really only going to be using 2B against bosses, not really for progression. Maybe you might use her in PvP, right? Which is fine as well, but especially since she's fire, I believe fires beats wind, and wind is being used a lot in PvP, so it's not bad. But yeah, I think honestly, if you're going to only be using her against bosses, realistically, you want to give her elemental damage, crit damage, and then your last slot could be either crit rate. You could give her the attack percentage, because don't forget, the attack percentage still does help her. Even though she skills off HP, remember, all her damage is based on final attack, right? And final attack includes the attack effect from this gear. So your best way to go about it, in my honest opinion, is probably elemental damage, crit damage, or crit rate, if you want to give her the crit rate, and then attack percent, right? Just so that you can hit harder. This attack percent will not be useless with her, because it will actually affect her skills, her numbers, right? So probably elemental damage, because you're going to be using her against bosses realistically only, and then crit damage, because she's going to crit easily, right? Depending on what you're going to use her with, I guess. If you want to give her the crit rate, you can, right? So you can go elemental, crit rate, crit damage, but I would recommend elemental damage, crit rate, and then the attack percentage, because that all benefits her in terms of damage, right? These are characters you want them to do damage, right? So I feel like that's the best way to get damage out of this character. And so yeah, now in terms of her best partner, there's no question that her best partner in the game is this character. Realistically, if you want my honest opinion, you probably won't be using 2B if you don't have this character. I know there's alternatives, and I'm going to talk about them in a second, but it's a massive drop. And I know a lot of people want to believe, wipe over meta. I mean, 2B's meta, so it's fine. But there's just no reason why you're going to be using her if you don't have Mast, I feel like. Right? There's another character I'm going to talk about that you can use her with, but realistically, Mast is your go-to character. She is a character who increases crit rate and gives crit damage every time we fall below 70%, which will be very easy because she increases max HP without restoring HP by 70% to 2 allies with the highest attack. And because 2B skills off max HP for attack, she will easily have the highest attack on your team. And then she also does lower defense on the target. So against bosses, these two are literally like Shaq and Kobe, right? Another good option is Blanc. The only thing with Blanc is that you want to have her with NIER. And I only say that because Blanc obviously has the damage taken to all enemies. It's very useful. Can heal and stuff like that, but you're really only going to be using her for this damage taken. She does also increase max HP, but it's to the ally with the lowest HP, and 2B will not be the character with the lowest HP. So I guess you're only really using Blanc for that damage taken debuff, realistically. And then that goes into our next character, which is Novel. Where's Novel? Because she has the same thing but you're really only going to use Novel against the boss, right? Where is this girl? Here. Right, Novel. You're only going to use her against the boss because it only goes to one enemy when she is fully stacked up, but it's a big damage taken debuff for 5 seconds, right? And that's all you need for 2B to use her burst skill and cook. So, literally, Novel is another good partner with her. But in just terms of general content, you're going to want to use her with Mask. A burst one option, a good one is obviously Volume because she gives you that crit rate you're looking for the 5 seconds. By a pretty big 22% at level 4 is crazy. Especially if the kids have a base percentage of 50 crit rate. And I don't believe there's any crit resistance in this game or anything like that. So that's pretty big, right? And then not to mention also another good character, as we already know, is like you can use Litter. It's not really gonna make that much of a difference, but don't forget, obviously Litter does increase crit damage as well. Also increases the attack, which will be beneficial to her burst skill, because remember, her burst skill does scale off final attack. Any type of attack buff that she gets will be like it will work with her, right? It won't be useless. So realistically, I don't think you're going to use her if you're not running Mask, right? Because you're really only going to be running her against bosses, right? She's not bad in PV or like PvE regular progression, but bosses is where she really shines, right? Because you want to use her in a long fight. That's what I should have said from the jump. You want to use her in long fights, and boss fights are long fights. So that's where she shines. But you guys let me know what you think. Let me know, would you guys use this character realistically if you don't have Mask? Like, maybe you would try to force it, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's just the damage, like from testing, the damage drop from having Mask and not having Mask is just way too much. But I guess if you don't have Mask, it doesn't matter for you personally, right? Technically. So you guys let me know what you think. Hopefully this was a good, this is just how I would go about it, right? Just makes the most sense to me. But you guys let me know what you think. It's your boy Zxous. I'm out. Peace.